I'll now take the opportunity to introduce Gopal. Gopal has been a friend. I don't think we really need to introduce him in the K community, right? He's been a champion, he's been a pillar in terms of helping drive the K community. But personally, he's been a friend, he's been a thinker, right? And a simple introduction, I think a humanist, right? So I'll not take any further words from him. Let me call upon Gopal.
Thanks to all. I'm not going to make any presentation today. Actually, this is going to be more of a group interaction, or extracting wisdom of the group. Okay, so I chose this because it's very interesting. I remember reading this paper by two authors, Fahey and Prasad, way back in 1998. I was a scholar then. So they wrote this paper called The 11 Deadliest Sins of Game. So I choose deadly. I think Mr. The deadliest impact there. So it had more punch actually. So if you look at the date, it is 1998. And it was a time when game has actually taken off. Knowledge management as a concept that took off in 90s. So it's 8 years probably. And they wrote this paper based on their own research of 100 game projects which was done in various organizations across industries. If you look at the intent of the paper, these two bullet points actually summarize the intent of why they wrote this paper. And they told that it is important to detect these errors so that game does not become yet another management fad that promised too much and delivered little. And look at the second point. They say if these errors are left uncorrected, it will inhibit genuine knowledge from being developed and leveraged. That's why they felt that these errors should be avoided by organizations, and listed down 7 sins, deadly sins of game. Now, I'm presuming there's this crowd who's here, assembled here, we're all interested in knowledge management. That's why we're here in the K community. And I also probably presume that each one of you are probably practicing game back in your own organization in your own way. It could be a formal game department which you have. Probably you would have a chief knowledge officer or not have, or maybe somebody else is playing that part. But let's presume for a moment that you're all doing some game in some form in your organization. And my request to you is that first part of this presentation, I want all of us to actually take each sin which they've addressed and see whether we are still committing it or not. Because it was 1998 they mentioned about these sins. We are 14 years down the line, 2012. Let's have a relook at and then see whether we are still committing those sins. Okay, shall we start? Okay, so and for every sin I want a group voting here. Okay, first sin, what they told us, not developing a thanks. So first, what the authors told us, many organizations don't have a working definition of knowledge. I mean, it's not, they don't say that, you should have a website where you write, this is how we define knowledge. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that, as an organization, do we understand the real meaning of knowledge? Is it a collective understanding? And what they emphasize is that, please do differentiate between data, information and knowledge. Only then you know what KM is all about. So how many of you agree with this? I mean, are we all clear about knowledge? Do you think we are clear about what knowledge is? Okay, I'll come to that point also. Okay, so Sukumar also says we still have not we don't have a collective understanding of what knowledge really means. I mean, right. Right. Okay. See, please understand that knowledge could be defined by different people in different contexts. For example, if you assign there's a group of salespeople who are going to sell a product in a particular territory. Now that group will clearly know what knowledge means among themselves. They know its knowledge means about knowing the customers, knowing the retail outlets, how to convince them and so on, how to push the products. That could be knowledge as they define it. It could be even tacit also. They may not have put it down in paper. So now what do you say? Do you think we all within our teams know what knowledge means, at least tacitly? To some extent. Right. Okay. So which means this is more of 50-50 now still. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next. Second, they says organizations emphasize more on knowledge stocks than knowledge flow. So they define knowledge stock like this. Documents, artifacts, databases, all which tangible and as a thing, as a thing which is different from people. That's what they mention. Whereas if you look at the flow perspective, I think a lot of points, actually some telepathy had happened between us, I think. Some points, a lot of common points. Flow means knowledge is always in a constant flux. It's changing actually. So that's what what they emphasize is that the emphasis should be more on the flow aspect. You take a simple example of an org chart. I think many of us, refer to the org chart, who's the CEO, who's the head of departments and so on. But don't you think even that is in constant change? Because people are leaving, new people are coming, new departments are being formed. So every knowledge object is in constant flux actually. And if you ignore that, then we are going to only refer to some obsolete knowledge actually. So that is, and another important point they mention is that often we view knowledge as something separate from the organizational process. They feel for example, take a simple thing called campus recruitment of a company. There's a process where a company goes to campuses and recruits people. It's a process. That process actually embodies a lot of knowledge. If you view this knowledge different from the process, then actually we're missing the point. That's what they mentioned here. So how are we doing on this? Are we giving more equal emphasis on flow and stock? Do you think we're giving? Somewhat. Yes. I think compared to 1998, 14 years down the line, I think this paper was written at a time when the social revolution was not yet happening. Because 98, we're just catching up on the internet revolution. So probably I think thanks to these social technologies, I think to some extent the importance is given to connecting people. Good. Third, viewing knowledge as existing predominantly outside the heads of individuals. This again is actually, so giving importance to documents, like they say, organizations glorify databases as knowledge bases and search engines as substitutes for human brains. So what they say is don't overemphasize these things. Because typically at that time, if you look at it, organizations wanted to develop what they called as people independent organization. We should not be dependent on people. We should be process driven. People may come and go, but I want the organization to remain. Doesn't really happen. I mean, ultimately, as they say, look at the last point. Knowledge is never complete outside of an individual. That's what they say. So it's we who put to use it. Okay, I think this probably I think we have overcome. Yeah, very important thing. They say that and fundamental aspect of KM is to create a shared context. A team is there, a department is there, an organization is there. They say everybody should have a shared understanding of why we are here. Take K community for example. We all belong to this community. Do we have a shared context? We know definitely why we are here. And for what purpose we have come here, right? That's the shared context he is talking about. And he says that, and he says, look at this blue point. Creating this shared context requires a lot of time and effort by leaders. And unfortunately, very few firms have this time for this. That's what he says. Because it involves dialogue, reflection, collective, conversations and so on. That's what he says. And he says, if we don't have shared context, this is what will happen. There will be collision of beliefs, assumptions, and priorities. So how are we doing on this? I think bad. I mean, see, having an organization vision written down and putting on the walls is something different from this actually.
No, but do we have a shared context for managing knowledge? That I'm not. We as an organization, we have a shared context.
That is
For example, KCC has a shared context.
Yes.
But do we have a shared context for managing knowledge within KCC?
Oh, that's a good point.
I think that's what they are.
No.
Not sure.
Both. I think that is more important, Sumar, in their opinion. Actually, that is I mean, a team should have a shared context, so that they know exactly. Okay, I think this is something I think definitely we can tick off. Paying little heed and importance to role of tacit knowledge. I think this over the period, I think many people have really understood that tacit knowledge is very important and tacit knowledge means these things. Look at the words they've used. Perspectives, perceptions, beliefs and values. That is what tacit knowledge is all about. That's what human beings bring to the table when they come. It's not about what they write, what they blog or whatever. When you come to the table, when you have a conversation, what you bring in terms of your perceptions, beliefs and values is the tacit knowledge. And I think we definitely are giving importance to tacit knowledge because, I mean, we have SMEs, people and experts in conversations. Okay. Sixth, disentangling knowledge from its users. What the author says that normally organizations say, no, you are knowledge generators, you are knowledge users. You keep on generating knowledge and then pass it on to these people. He says that should not be done. Don't separate the users from the generators. That's what they say. I had an interesting thought on this. We had gone to one Maruti showroom to see a car, actually, to look at some options. So we had a salesperson coming and sitting with us and then going through those models and what's the cost benefit. Actually, if you look at it, such organizations also have a marketing research team and a CRM team who are actually doing research, analyzing customer, preferences, consumer preferences and all those things. So there's a team out there sitting and doing research on the general psychology of, what would ladies like, what would gents like and all those things. And here is a person on the ground who is actually sitting in face to face with the customer who has come to the showroom. Who's the creator, who's the user here? Actually, somebody is creating out there, but he is not having access to that knowledge. So this is a mistake they do actually. Not only that, this person who's interacting with me is creating knowledge during the conversation. Understanding what is my socioeconomic background and trying to understand my preferences. Where is this knowledge going? Is it flowing back? So the creator-user bridge is there. Seventh. Okay, this is interesting. I was downplaying thinking and reasoning. How many of you traveled this MRTS train? So there's a station in Perungudi. Have you ever tried to get down or get in from Perungudi? I mean, people still, one day one of my ex-manager told that, I give an assignment, Gopal, if you can, from your Cognizant office, if you can go to Perungudi railway station by road, I'll give you 100 rupees. It's so difficult to figure out where the station is actually. And they built this actually, if you look at a document, if you go and ask this MRTS, the engineers who built it actually, they'll have a document which says, this is the map we finalized, this is the route we finalized, and this is how we decided on the stations where we would have. But they wouldn't have written down the thinking and reasoning behind that. Why did we go and put the Perungudi station there, where nobody gets in and gets out? So much of money is spent. So you will not find the thinking and reasoning actually documented in that particular final, the product, work product, BRD or whatever you call it. That's what authors say. So all your documents don't actually underplay this thinking reasoning which has gone behind the document actually. So how are we on this? I think we don't spend time writing all these things. Even writing a document is a very laborious process for us. Because I remember famous this Saturn, NASA's Saturn documents. They had mission to be sent to Saturn, and then they formed this team in 1969. And afterwards, what happened? They shelved the project. 30 years down the line, they wanted again send this thing. They had the document, but not the people, so they couldn't make out what was written there. So I think that's the problem even they had. Okay. 8th, focusing on the past and present and not the future. I think this is where most of the knowledge, and if you look at the first sentence, what they say, people feel comfortable to collect data and generate information about the past and present. You sit and do a lot of analytics on, whatever data dump you get. People feel very comfortable, nice charts and all those things. But how is it useful for the future? You have to think about future. What they say is, you should have thought leaders and leaders talk, writing blogs or, white papers about what will happen in the future. How will the future look like? That's what they say. So, create knowledge about the future so that I can take some actions today. That's what they say. That's what we probably do very less.
This point is because of the previous point. We don't want to do any thinking and reasoning. So we don't think about it.
Exactly. Right. Okay. 9. Failing to recognize the importance of experimentation. Probably you can, in Dr. Vijay Govindrajan's terminology, the box 3 of innovation. Where they say, box 3 is where you do new experiments in your organization. You go to new areas. You try out new hypotheses and then test it out. And like they say, very few organizations actually spend efforts there. 10th one, obviously, but I think now it is not Like 14 years down the line, this is because what they argued at that time is that, the information IT and the communication technologies can never substitute for the rich interactivity, communication, learning that is inherent in dialogue. They argue that direct physical interaction is any day better than through the technologies. But I think today we have definitely better technologies like video conferencing or I think which definitely come closer. But do you think it's equivalent to physical interactions? Yes, but I think like today we live in a world where we have teams spread across locations and we'll have to put up with, I think there are a lot of people watching this live streaming also on this thing. I think we'll have to put up these constraints. That's what they say. And last one, seeking to develop direct measures of knowledge. What they say is, of course, like you spend a lot of money on knowledge management department, setting of people, giving salaries and all those things, and then you have to measure like, okay, what is the ROI? So, and what these authors what these authors say is that, at least it's in 98. So, what usually they measure by how many hits has happened to my portal, how many people have downloaded my document, all those measures of knowledge. Not, they say that we typically don't correlate them with the how much has this game contributed to my performance of organization or in decision making. That relation we don't do. That's what they say. So these are the 11 sins which they had put. Now what I'm going to do is, we're going to do a small exercise. I think we can have 3 teams maybe. Yeah, we can have 4 also. I'll give 1 there. Maybe we can just join. Yeah, we have 1 team here. Maybe okay, you 4 there, or you want to, maybe a couple of you can join them. Okay, fine. Okay. So we've seen these 11 sins, right? I'll give 10 minutes. Do you think over the past 14 years after this paper, we have started committing new sins of KM? This is a question to you. If you think that we have started committing new sins which we should not be doing, you please write it down. I want you to write the new sins we are committing in knowledge management. Huh? Okay. Fine, I'll put that. Even there it is bullet point. Okay, I'll do that for you. You get started, I'll do it for you here. Because I have listed 5 of mine, what I think. Okay, let me see how much our wavelengths are matching. So I want you to write down what new sins we are doing.
No, but that can become a starter.
New sins. What do you think, assume you are the KM expert or, knowledge worker or whatever. Okay. What do you think, according to you, today we are doing some mistakes in KM, which we should not be doing? Or you think we should be doing something which we are not doing, some positive or negative? I'll just, meanwhile,
More than 11.
I mean, we can list the top 5.
This 11 itself is hard. You don't want to get depressed,
To give you a small clue, there's a big clue in Subra's presentation actually. Almost he has replicated my slide. The one aspect which he talked about.
Interconnectedness. Points of failure, interconnectedness, uncertainty, solo move. That's all what he said. So maybe we can. Success as a culture. What does his work?
It still has its own cowardice in its own.
This is not process. You can just break it. Exactly. It's very hard.
It's still cowardice.
Perception of things that we are not able to break. That my organizational knowledge is better than what I am happy with one experience. Google is always there for me, but what is the third phase? What is the third phase?
Lean startup come value hypothesis.
Landmass depends. For example,
90% is confusion. We don't have cutoff.
taking Google,
Media has come to the value hypothesis. They don't have a problem. They only want done. It's not a value hypothesis. We must discuss in school in the meetings. When you were saying K community hasn't crossed the gap, I was saying K hasn't crossed the gap, which is why K community is not. Because what is the value hypothesis? Yes. For the few people that practice it, that we know. That's still, we import early adopters.
it is supposed to happen.
All the gas and more things obvious to the early method. Hey, open my idea. Why they struggle to talk to people here?
First, we don't have anything more things, so
All the sins are put down.
we'll have 3 points. Time out? Over?
No. Virupakshan, உங்களை மாதிரி சிப் எல்லாம் அவங்களுக்கு இல்ல.
It'll become 20 scenes, then we'll descriptive AM.
Lot of depressing. Less depressing.
No, see, one thing I want to understand, I'm not able to be a sinner.
See, one thing I don't understand, I think it's the same with Cognizant also. Whatever be the KM initiative, KM portal, everything, finally people, when they want knowledge or information, they go to Google. Call people, no, Google. First, whatever it is, I Google it first, and then for IP issues only, we will go to KM. If there is any IP issue,
There is a cultural change happening internally in our Cognizant. The blogging platform has picked up. So there are people who are searching their blogging platforms. Then going and this my personal experience.
those who do not have internet access inside the organization, maybe will seek for an intranet solution. That's it, so everybody has.
So they all our associates are having
What you are saying is notwithstanding what Devapa says, still
Many people go for Google.
majority will do.
Minimize it.
Which I think is due to this. See, if you had your organization knowledge in a way that
Whether it is not redeemable or the awareness is not created, value proposition is not given properly. We believe it is not consumable.
Thanks.
Google gives.
I don't know whether that's the best answer or not. That was the new answer.
So what is the sin out of this point? So I'm not getting the sin. See, I know people are forced to.
I'm not in your discussion.
No, we all are discussing.
Sample photo.
Ladies,
I think we publish a KCC book on monograph on sins in the game.
better we stop here and then discuss it.
Groups, I don't have extra charge, sorry. Okay, I think we'll stop. Okay. So which group is going to stand? Which group is going to share first?
We will share it first. Okay.
Right.
So that,
I'll give you the mic.
okay, the first sin I see in the organizations is nowadays people are forced to contribute to KM. If you contribute 10 KMs or 20 KMs per year or so, you will be getting some credit points based on which you will be eligible for promotion or whatever it is. So when people are forced to write KMs, we know what is the quality of KM articles will be. So the newest sin relating KM activity to your appraisal or promotion is the newest sin.
You are saying that we should not do it.
We should not do it. I mean, if you relate KM and appraisal or for that matter salary, it's going to hurt the KM quality.
knowledge is best when it's volunteered. That's what is that.
Okay.
Knowledge department.
No, the best outcome comes when you volunteer.
No, people from delivery, are forced to write KM articles. Not from knowledge department. Knowledge department are ensuring that they are forced.
I mean, are you saying that we should not force, or are you saying
We should not force. See, if you force anything, you will get a low quality one.
Okay,
Right?
fine.
So next,
People is the nuisance.
Okay, fine.
Maybe that's one way of making the KF department like
Exactly.
the value of sharing knowledge. I mean, that's what you mean, right? It's not.
forcing people.
What someone.
Oh no. This is a sin. It should not be done. The recommendation is don't force anybody to write a KM article just because if you write a KM article, you will be given good rating in appraisal. So
I got that point.
So how do you build? So your next question is how do I build without forcing?
Exactly. That is what I was looking for, a possible solution. Meaning, because all of us know that it is needed. Okay. And we know, we definitely understand your point that it's not worth forcing because the quality will suffer. Correct. So do you, are you suggesting some approach?
No, I'm not suggesting. My thought process only till this point.
Yeah. Karthik, we'll go through the list.
Sure, no problem.
Next one.
We thought another thing which we are creating is build an intelligent system and the knowledge will automatically flow into it.
Okay.
That's the sin.
You are saying that we should not assume.
Yeah.
Can you rephrase it again?
We assume that you build a Twitter or an Yammer-like platform.
Okay.
You have a discussion forum as good as Quora and knowledge starts flowing out of it. But that doesn't happen.
Technological.
Okay, probably close to it, in that family. Okay, good. Next.
No, there is somewhere else that they talk about.
No, putting a
Tools.
system that KM will thrive is the sin. That's his point.
A very intelligent system. I mean, maybe third sin.
So that's saying it's a sin.
Okay, what's
Maybe
the
we will rephrase this, since we didn't get any help, we will rephrase the third sin which we feel. We build a different system totally in intranet, and finally people will go for a Google search kind of thing, which means that there is no, conviction or anything from the KM group. If you can search intranet first and then go for Google, kind of thing should come to our mind. Prevent the solution will be prevent Google. Yeah.
No, actually, we did a small project in Honeywell in Bangalore. So they told in all the IE Explorer browsers, all the people have kept default about home as the Google page. Actually, how can we change that to Honeywell's? They call it the greenhouse. How do you make this shift? Like how everybody actually keeps my portal, KM portal as the default thing. I mean, it doesn't really happen. Actually, stop.
Once a week, stop Google. One day, you only use internal sources.
Very interesting to study how people
That's a good hypothesis study actually, box 3 study.
behave. We are controlling that, right? Forcing people to use internal. No, but the results of the output will still be very interesting to at least kind of.
But still, it's still a.
No, we are doing a sin in another way, but then
we're doing mail blockouts, right? One day you don't use mail, or half a day you don't use mail, right?
But how is that a sin? That is just a resultant of all these sins. By using Google, none of this I have hit me only.
The sin is.
And you identified two more. So,
the sin
Yes, we are not, emphasizing the KM in an organization. Rather, we are emphasizing on the knowledge available outside the organization. So the
we
emphasis.
are not emphasizing anything. Due to all this, we have failed. So people go to Google. Simple.
Right, correct.
I don't think you can use our failure as a sin.
Okay, good.
I think we couldn't get that point. So
Okay, fine. We'll have this group. Sumar, your group or okay, Ramsamy group. Good.
Okay, I'll just read what I have written now, then subsequently yes. One was even now knowledge sharing is KM department job. Even now knowledge sharing, what is it for me, for an expert? You go and ask an expert, he say, what is it for me? And this is something which was thought was KM as a department of function is never in the limelight in a very successful organization.
Very good.
It's always, put in the back burner and the most last recognized people in any organization.
but is it a sin to bring them in a vacuum?
I mean, not recognizing them, not rewarding them.
What if it was not recognizing? So because of the sins only you are not recognizing.
No, even if they're doing well. I mean, what she is saying is.
I never heard any organization saying, I succeeded because KM. I don't know.
Role models.
That we thought of was it's still knowledge is still language dependent. So yeah, maybe a move towards video or communication or different forms of communication. That could be, sin is it's still language dependent.
The written aspect.
The written aspect.
Okay.
It's a sin.
Okay.
And the way it should be corrected is to move to other modes of communication.
Good. That's it. Okay, good show. Mani, you want to?
There are people over there who have written reams of papers.
Yeah, I think Ramya's group is.
What, Kumar? There's a bunch of children.
Okay.
Got an extra sheet.
Take the mic.
Okay, they've got a mic. Okay.
Okay, hello. The first point was loss from thinking to saying to doing to documenting. So, like he said, right? When you write it, you miss it out. So maybe pictorials, videos would help us more. So, not many modes of knowledge management is there today. Yes, YouTube is there, but inside the organization, we don't see all these modes of care.
Modes of expression, I mean, documenting. Only the written is looked at. The mind maps or pictorial or videos.
It's at the same
Okay,
point.
okay.
So just the same. And then reinventing the wheel and not learning from mistakes. Someone had done the mistake and they've documented it, but you still go ahead and do the same mistake. It is, you don't give a heed to what others have done out of their experience.
Okay, good.
And then blindly following knowledge imparted because of the person imparting it. Just because someone so great said it, I have to do this. So, yeah, it might be a wrong source. We never considered that. So that's one thing.
Not questioning or.
Not questioning the credibility of that person.
Fantastic.
So that's one more thing. And we try to quantify knowledge, which still is something they had a point on. Always trying to find measurements on knowledge. I think you already have the point in the 11th sense.
Okay, okay.
So.
Okay. You're saying that we should not try to.
Yeah, he's saying don't quantify knowledge.
Okay.
And then micro knowledge management is something they said, you learn bits and pieces of everything and then you don't see a holistic picture at the end. So
Okay.
what they say is you learn here and there at the end. So it's micro knowledge and not that macro knowledge that gets forward. So that was one thing. And the last point was the culture of KM that has the non-tolerance towards, making mistakes. When I fail also I document it. That is something we don't see. When you succeed you document. All the beautiful metrics are documented. But what about the failure metrics? So
Good.
that's
Very good. Very good.
One point where she said, somebody great guy says everybody accepts it. Now I think it's changing because of new technology. You can go and say, I like it, I don't like it. So the more and more people. Yes. So
Since it's anonymous, I think we get caught.
No, but I still think even though we are saying that's changed, I don't think it has really changed much, at least in this part of the world.
because people don't read it fully. Once they read it fully, then they will say, I don't like it, or like it.
So it changes slowly over a period of time, but that's not a it's a very gradual one.
No, I think I don't know whether that's what she's pointing out. The hierarchical authority. Somebody over there, expert genius, said it, so it must be right.
Correct.
Which is kind of part of our thinking process. I'm telling you,
No, that's really
understanding the lights and this way.
no, right. But if nobody likes, in our organization we have something like only, don't dislike. Okay. So if nobody likes, it means that it is as good as people are not accepting it. So people come to know, and some senior people who are matured enough, they'll get a lot of likes. So from that we can find out.
Yeah.
Karthik.
So there are signals.
Karthik, you want?
Hello?
Okay.
Sorry. We just put 4 points here. I thought, the very basic point I have put, I am not sure whether it is covered here in these 11 points. A person with a wealth of knowledge, so much knowledge, not willing to share his knowledge outside is the greatest sin.
Very good.
And I think that should be the deadliest sin, right on top.
Good.
Why I am saying this is, when for the first time when I saw the profitability sheet at Cognizant, I did not understand head or tail of it. It's completely, for the first time user, it's very difficult. And person who is sitting next to me knew everything about it and was not willing to share anything, on how to read this and things like that. So, he has. Yeah. So that we have put as first point.
Okay.
Second point is, we know that we are lacking in something. We definitely know that for winning, we have to know certain things, and we are not willing to do or willing to go out and read or join communities like this, discuss with people. So lack of interest of an individual not to learn is also a greatest sin.
Very good.
Third thing what we put was, we read in isolation and we get some kind of information, but we do not know whether it is correct or not. So when we come to forums like this and when we discuss with people, do brainstorming sessions, we will understand the information better.
Correct.
So not doing that again is a sin.
Okay. Okay.
Fourth thing is we only spoke about knowledge management within the industry, and if you take India as a whole, if you see how the knowledge flows from one community, not community, from one point to another, there are several pockets where there is no access to any kind of information at all. So we have to do something about that. Again, not doing that is a sin.
Very good.
Okay, these 4 points we have put.
Very good. Thanks. I think we have this team. Please pass on the mic. Thank you.
Hi. One point which you have mentioned is on accessing knowledge.
Right.
I still remember a 60-member team where I was working, wherein people were simply dumping information into a store. They were just dumping information, all the 60 of them. And over a period of time, around 6 months, 1 year later, it was absolutely junk. I mean, we couldn't make any information out of it. So rather than dumping something, if the essence of it, if the actual meaning, if the essence part of it could have been stored, then it would have been easy to access, because something which is not easily accessible, there is no point in storing it or maintaining. It should be properly maintained, it should be properly managed.
Okay. Okay.
So one of the deadliest sins could be not managing it properly, not maintaining it properly,
Right.
such that it is not handy when we actually need it.
Good. Right. Actionable knowledge.
Actionable knowledge, something that can be quickly consumed.
Right.
We reach Google because it gives us very quickly.
Right.
Go ahead and type Google cars, and it gives us all the latest cars available. It gives us all sort of information, because the speed of access, it gives it in microseconds.
Right.
So that is one point that we came up with. And there was one point on consumption and contribution.
So, today, we have a lot of sources, where we can go and learn and then all those things. But the other side, like that, it relates with the other point the other team mentioned. The people who consume, they are not contributing to great extent. So that becomes a roadblock, and as he mentioned, some of the key aspects of the knowledge, when it is not shared, that becomes a greatest problem.
Right. Right.
So, I'm just relating to some of our olden days where in our villages we will have some banyan tree where they will, in the evenings, people will gather and they will discuss and share. It's an old things that we see in the villages. So that kind of environment, it's similarly I can relate it to our K community. So that kind of an storytelling, it is another mode of communication which we need to encourage these days.
Right. Right. Good. 2 cents. Okay. Think last. You have Manish. Wants the
7 points that were there. Yeah. 7 points. First one was that knowledge comes from experts alone. That's a sin. It's essentially there across the pyramid. Right? So that's the number one. The one about actionables we already spoke about. The third one is that we still haven't solved for KM. What's in it for me? The value proposition, the compelling value proposition is still not there for the end user. Right? The fourth is absence of KM still doesn't make it dead. So it's still a good to have as opposed to a must have.
That's more sin for the KM itself.
Yeah. So we still haven't.
So we have to make a lot of things. Okay.
Speaking, we have it doesn't cross Tacit. Right? Fifth is KM is not everybody's business. It's still the KM teams or a few folks who have to do the job.
Okay.
The sixth is this belief from every individual or every group that we are unique and different and we don't need anybody's help.
So not seeking help is a sin.
Right. So seventh is not really thinking, applying a rationale, not building a theory of operations in terms of why something works and why something doesn't work. So that not really applying that approach of thinking in terms of whatever they are doing. So these are the sins in terms of what we thought.
Fantastic. I think been excellent, and I think 15 minutes we've generated so many new sins, and I wish we could write a paper, a journal paper with all you face co-authors. And I mean, it's really amazing, because if one of us sits alone and thinks of writing a paper or or some white paper on the sins, I think we wouldn't have got up with so many perspectives. Actually, it's really brilliant.
It's all coming from the heart.
Yeah. And actually, I have
the Twitter crowd.
Okay.
Using more social media is keeping us away from the knowledge.
Oh my God. Oh, I mean, I have a contrasting slide now in my thing actually. I mean, actually one unique aspect was each group actually, we had very few overlapping things actually. A lot of you came with the very different insights, and so I have 5 sins from my side to contribute, and then a couple of them I already addressed. One thing is, first basic sin according to me is forgetting the hygiene factors of KM. I mean, we should, when we talk about all these new social technologies and all those things, we should not forget about the hygiene factors. One, have a telephone directory. Give me a desk, chair, create meeting places. Don't remove the water coolers. All those things are hygiene factors of KM. For example, if you ask me who is heading your BFS practice, I should be able to go to some place and see, this is the head of my, and a photo should be there. For example, like, we had these innovation sessions within our group, and I asked who's our chief information or innovation officer. They told Sukumar, have you seen them? No. I mean, we should have photo, and then people should be able to see it. So basic access, who is who? For example, if you look at not only expert directory, I mean, basic company website should have basic information actually. That is missing. You go to, for example, today you go to any website of educational institution, and let's assume you're trying to do a PhD somewhere. You go to some website, Anna University, let's say. Try to find out what are the rules and regulations, how do you apply? It's very difficult today. That's how it is organized. So those hygiene factors should be addressed. Is my first sin. Second sin is ignoring the social dimension of KM. Now what I mean is 2 perspectives. One is, as an individual, you take my example. I have very low social footprint. If you look, I am on Twitter, Facebook, Orkut, Quora, Flickr, LinkedIn, everything I am there, just registered. I put 5 tweets in the past 2 years. I am following Sukumar also. I am not even reading, leave alone tweeting. This is a sin which I am committing. Because, why I am saying this, if you look at this paper, they have written in 1998. Now, if I wait again for a paper from Prusak or Fahe, it might appear once in a year or once in 2 years. But if I follow them on Twitter or read their blogs, they are going to regularly share their thoughts actually. Which means I can learn a lot if I am having presence on the social media. So I am missing out on a lot of learning opportunities if I am not social actually. This is a sin actually according to me. From an organizational perspective, if you look at it, first thing is you should provide social collaboration platforms to employees. Give them that. Second thing, you should measure the social index of employees. Measure them. How? Get some metrics in place. Third, you should reward social behavior. If I'm a frequent blogger, I'm a frequent commenter, or helping, answering queries on the discussion forums, why don't you reward me? I mean, it comes to your point. See, what I'm saying is, don't force me and all. But you are seeing this employee, each employee spends 8 hours a day. But here's this employee who is coming and, answering forum questions, blogging, commenting, reading, contributing case studies. Why don't you reward him? That's it. Second sin is, this not connecting KM to business outcomes. This is sin number 11. But what I'm saying is that if a CEO can say, our operational efficiency has improved by 5% due to a 10% increase in our employee social index. If you can make that statement, then you're really creating a big impact in the organization, because employees will know that their social behavior has a direct correlation with their performance. I mean, to do this, you have to do a lot of analytics. You have to measure, and then you have to correlate. That's one thing. Fourth is not adopting ideas from the internet world. See, today if you look at the internet space, we are all on all these things. But as an organization, see, you look at each aspect. Building profiles, creating networks, sharing updates, searching, blogs. For all these things, you have templates available readily. You don't have to do any R&D. Just go to these sites, take the best practice. Even user interface you can just copy paste. But we are not doing it. Because why this is important is, why people are going to Google is because of the interface and the results. It's one of the main factors actually. So just replicate their Sunday night experience in Monday morning. So when they come to the organization, they expect similar kind of user experience. We should probably do that. And last one, I think one of you mentioned here, not partnering with a larger ecosystem. Like we talk about the industry. I mean, you take the case of educational institutions. I think many organizations give internship opportunities to MBAs or BTechs and come and so that's the only form of partnering we do. Look at, as we speak, many BTech guys or MBA chaps are developing apps as part of summer projects. Are we aware of it? We are not. We are not participating at all. That's probably the last sin we are committing. So thanks for the excellent interactions. I think we have had I'll correct back and then probably document and then share it in the K community. I've shared the paper in the K community. This PDF I've shared. You can probably go through it. Thanks.